I am in no means or way a doctor or medical professional, and this video is not medical advice at all. This is just to discuss my experience with Whoop and sort of what I've noticed and patterns and trends over the last 6 months. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasha, and today I am back to talk to you about my Whoop strap. So I got my Whoop strap back July or August of last year. So it's been a good 6 months of me wearing it every day. I haven't taken it off except to clean it and charge it, which I will be talking about in this video. When I first got my Whoop, I was getting back into exercising with dysautonomia, so I was doing the Levine protocol. I did the Levine protocol for about a month before I went on vacation, and then after vacation, I started doing events for my Etsy shop back to back to back. If you don't have dysautonomia and you don't know what the Levine protocol is, the first few months of starting it, you feel worse before you start to feel better. And because my Etsy shop and these vendor events are my livelihood right now, since that's the only way I make an income or earn a living, because I had to quit my job when I got sick, I couldn't allow myself to start working out again to get worse before seeing the eventual benefits. So I have been wearing my Whoop the whole time, even though I have not really been working out. What I'm doing at the moment is trying to be as active as possible, just running my shop during the day. And then a few nights a week before I go to bed, I have some 10-pound dumbbells in my room, and I'll do a really basic 1 set of 8 or 10 curls and push press and tricep dips and like everything I can to just get a little bit of movement and muscle growth before I go to bed. I have not made this video for a few reasons, and all of them are my own fault. So some of you have found me through the original video, some of you have found me through my second TikTok account, which was intended to be all of my physical journey with the Levine protocol and doing workouts and learning how the Whoop strap worked. And then I already explained, life happened and my plan didn't come into fruition, and here we are now. In the beginning, I would say the first 3 months, you have an option every morning when you log into your Whoop app to record what you did the day before. And you can pick what options you want to discuss based on their like pre-installed menu of things. Like, did you take your vitamins? Did you work out? Did you stretch? Did you hydrate enough? Did you take your medicine? And it's an entire list that's incredibly helpful for building data, because Whoop then takes that information that you have tracked and applies it to your recovery score and your strain score for the next day. So I've really done myself a disservice by not inputting that data anymore. Like I said, I think the last time I was inputting daily was somewhere around October, and it was really helpful to wake up every morning and to think, what did I do yesterday, and then compare it to what my recovery score was for that day. What I have here that I want to talk about with you guys today is a little overview of what the app looks like once you have your own Whoop. And then I have 6 months worth of data and analysis of my recovery and my strain. And I don't know if I included my HRV in this. I did not, but there's a way I can get to it. So my goal when I bought my Whoop originally was to try and collect my own data on what my body was doing. I already owned a blood pressure cuff and a heart rate monitor that went on my finger. It was also a pulse oximeter, so I could see what my pulse was doing. I could see what my oxygen was and my respiratory, and I was tracking that way, but that's obviously very clumsy and cumbersome, and I would get bruises on my arms. So having a little device that is constantly 24/7 tracking all of my information has been incredibly helpful. I'm thankfully not having any more syncope episodes. I'm not passing out, But if I ever get a feeling, because I still have a really bad startle response, I have hyperadrionic POTS. So I startle all the time, and it's not fun, and it makes me feel really sick. But when I do startle like that, I can open my app really quickly, see what my heart rate is doing in real time, and then do some breathing and mindfulness exercises to bring my heart rate back down to where it needs to be. It takes longer than a normal person who gets scared and then just brushes it off. My entire body is always in fight or flight, and we're really fighting out here. It's a struggle. So that's one way every day I'm using Whoop accurately. The other thing I want to talk about before we go into this video is that I have been in the past a little discouraged because while this data is good, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's good to have this information. I could wake up one day feeling the best I felt all week and check my recovery score and have a terrible recovery score and be like, but that doesn't match how I'm feeling physically and emotionally, but there's something within my body that is not recovered and is not doing well. Or the reverse can happen. I can feel like absolute crap, not get out of bed that day, everything hurts, my heart is racing, and I can check my Whoop and my recovery score is good and in the green. And it's like, you have a great chance of having a really high strain today and doing really well. And I'm like, there's no freaking way. So when it comes to stuff like that, I think that's normal. There's a few people, there's a doctor I have who I've talked to who also has the Whoop, and that was the first thing he warned me about. He said, there can be days where you wake up feeling great and your Whoop says that you are not at all recovered, and he said you need to listen to your body and do what your body is telling you to do. So if he, a doctor who, as far as I know, doesn't have my medical concerns, is saying that his Whoop says the same thing sometimes. He feels great, he's doing great, but his Whoop is in the red for some reason. He's like, listen to your body and don't push yourself too hard, but do what you physically feel able to do. So there have been some discouraging moments where I've tried different things with my diet to play with the score. My hydration is pretty much the same across the board because I have to drink at least one packet of Pedialyte every single day in order to function at all. I'm gonna take a sip now. And even before I got sick, I drink water like a fish. I am always drinking water. So my hydration is not an issue unless I'm hyper focused on a project for my Etsy shop, in which case I forget to eat and drink for most of the day. So in that case, my Whoop score does reflect that poor lifestyle choice. I also have struggles with food and eating food. And there have been long periods of time while wearing the Whoop where I know for a fact I'm not eating the right food or the correct amount of calories that my body needs to properly recover. So that is another factor for why some of my scores might look the way they do. I think the interesting thing overall is keeping a track on my heart rate variability. So heart rate variability, and I'm not gonna get this totally correct. I have some screenshots we're gonna look at together later that has the definition, but to my understanding, it's how quickly your heart can change and be prepared for either extraneous movements, like if I stood up, what does my heart vary to from seated to standing, or standing to walking, or walking to running? And it's sort of that process of how quickly does your heart change. So there are athletes whose heart rate variability is in the 110, 120. That's like an insanely perfect heart rate variability. That is a goal for some of the top athletes in the world. That is not my goal. When I got my Whoop and first put it on, my heart rate variability was in the 30s every day. So I knew I had a lot to work on and a lot I could improve upon. And there have been a few days where I've gotten close to 60. So we're already seeing some improvement with my heart rate variability, and naturally my body is recovering from the incident that caused me to have the dysautonomia. And I've had a lot of questions about that with what am I doing to recover so well? How have I recovered so well? And I honestly am not entirely sure. I take a lot of vitamins, and if you want my list of vitamins, I can leave them in the comments below. I am in no means or way a doctor or medical professional, and this video is not medical advice at all. This is just to discuss my experience with Whoop and sort of what I've noticed and patterns and trends over the last 6 months. I think I've rambled quite enough. I think I want to go over the app itself and what it looks like when you're in the app and using it, and then we'll go over my 6 months worth of data for my strain and recovery and sort of go from there and show you what that looks like. So when you first open the app, you're going to see the 2 circles at the top, your sleep performance, and then if you scroll to the bottom, it'll have a weekly overview. The 2 circles at the top are going to show your strain and recovery as soon as you wake up, as well as your heart rate variability and your calories. I personally always check my sleep performance. I really like to see how high my heart rate gets when I stand up in the morning, because that is going to be the biggest change. And I also have a lot of little spikes while I'm asleep, because every time I roll over, those spikes go up. In here, this is my overall health monitor for the day. You can see my heart rate variability is 39 and my resting heart rate is 62. I did not get the best night's sleep last night, according to my Whoop. I thought I slept great. So again, this is that like disconnect of I felt one thing, but the data says something else. So normally my heart rate variability recently has been in like the 50s. So I'm gonna have to take it a little bit easier today, which is not gonna be great for me because I have a lot going on and I'm prepping for an event. And I also think a lot of my recent scores, which I think I'm going to show you in just a second, have a lot to do with my emotional well-being for this week. I've had some hard things happen, I guess, and I'm just emotionally recovering from it. So my Whoop scores definitely reflect when I'm having an emotionally hard time just as much if I'm having a physically hard time. You can also go in and see your health report for the month, which calibrates super quickly all of your data so you can print it out if you're going into an appointment, or to even show your coaches if you want to show them like, hey, this is where I'm at, what should we improve upon, and what can I do better? Your day strain is going to be based off of those first 3 numbers that it showed right under that circle, and then if you go down, everything will be based off of the week, and you can switch between day strain, average heart rate, and calories. It'll also show you your overall strain performance relative to the date you're looking at, and then it always gives a definition or a link to click to learn more, which is super helpful when you're first looking at your Whoop. There were so many of these things I didn't understand. I watched a ton of tutorials, I watched a ton of Whoop videos to try and get as much information as I could. Next, in the recovery tab, it's going to show you why your recovery score is what it is based on your heart rate variability, resting heart rate, respiratory rate, and I think your sleep as well. And then again, it shows you your weekly progress down at the bottom. So the way Whoop works is everything at the top is for the one singular day you're looking at. Everything at the bottom is a week comparison. And I think it is really interesting to track trends in your week. If you know you had a really hard day and then you go back and check to see, you can see like maybe on that hard day you had a good recovery and then the next day your recovery was trash, and then you watch as your recovery slowly goes back up to normal. Your sleep again is the same, with it being singular for that day on the top and then a week of information down at the bottom. I have great sleep. I get 100 almost every single night unless I have an early appointment and don't get at least 8 hours. But my sleep times when I'm sleeping is not like regular to what a lot of people are doing because I can wake up and set my own hours since I'm just working on my Etsy shop at home. And then this is showing you guys how you can record your workouts and all of the cool information it gives you in real time. It'll give you your beats per minute, you can have a heart rate graph, your calories, and you can watch your strain increase. Down at the bottom, you can switch it from this sort of live stream view to have different widgets or apps highlighted on the front. If you're an Android user and you're trying to record a long workout, the only way I've found to do this is to actually screen record this section of your Whoop activity. So you would put it on the live, but don't actually press record, just screen record, and that's the only way it'll stay open. There's also the community tab where you can join different groups and they'll do different challenges. Because I haven't been actively working out, while I am part of 2 groups, I'm not really participating in anything. My daily scores just get shared regardless. So that was a quick overview of the Whoop app itself. There is a lot of information right at your fingertips, and the ones I use on a daily basis are my health monitor, my daily health metrics, because I am really interested in watching my heart rate variability and where it's at each day. I know if I'm in the 30s, I'm probably going to have a harder day. In the 40s is okay. If I'm in the 50s, we're going to have a good time. I'm going to have a lot of energy, I'm going to feel really good, and have a lot I can get done. I don't check my sleep other than, like I said, to check what my spikes were at night. Before I got the Whoop, we were assuming that I was passing out also in my sleep because I would wake up the same way I did after I passed out during the day if I was awake, and have all the same symptoms and experiences. And at the time, I think I had a Fitbit, and the Fitbit was tracking during the night. I was having huge spikes, like my BPM would go up to 165, which is typically the range it was in if I passed out. So instead of, like a lot of people with POTS have the reverse, where they'll get really high beats per minute and really low, oh my gosh, blood pressure. Mine was high for everything. So my blood pressure was going like 210 over 110, and my beats per minute were like 165, 189, and it would just go up and up and up until I was out. And then it would all come back down after a few hours. But since having the Whoop, I can see the spikes when I sleep, and now we're attributing those spikes more to every time I roll over. Since I have blood pooling in my body, when I roll, all the blood moves, and as it moves, my heart starts to pump a little bit harder. So that's why I think I'm getting those spikes at night. But none of them have been above like 90 or 100 within the past couple months. So again, that's a huge improvement for me. If you have any specific questions about the app, please let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer them. I know that was a very quick overview and there just is so much information in there. But we are going to move on to my very first month of data, which would be August of 2022. And this month isn't going to be the most accurate month because Whoop takes up to 30 days to calibrate to your body. So while you're wearing it, it's really just doing its best to try and figure out what your highs and what your lows on an everyday basis are. So as you can see, I'm kind of all over the board. The other thing I want us to all sort of look at and recognize is how interesting my strain was in these earlier months. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm losing my voice because I don't really talk out loud that often, so this is a lot of talking for me. Whew. So we can see I had a few days with really high strain, and then everything else is little peaks and valleys. Again, my strain is in the blue. Anytime you're in the green, that's your recovery score. And then I had a few low points here where I was in the yellow. But what's really interesting, I love watching it go from green all the way down to yellow, to a higher yellow, to a higher yellow, and then back to green. Okay, let's move into September. So September was the first time that I had anything in the red. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the 2 days in the red, I was actually on vacation in Universal Orlando Resort, and we were outside for a very long time. And as a heat intolerant person, that was really hard on my body. Just the traveling, and I mean, I had to travel from where I live in Orlando to the parks in Orlando. But even back then, being in the car was a really bad trigger for me with the motion. So even the car rides were awful. So it makes sense that those were my very first red recovery scores. And then I was able to get back up into the green because I think we had a 5-day trip, and I did the first 2 days. The third day, I stayed in bed all day and did not move. And I had pizza and ice cream, and it was just shoving calories into my body to try and get me to recover as much as I could. I don't recommend that. I don't know that that's the right thing to do or to eat, but when I was in a hotel resort, it was kind of all I had. I'm also gluten-free, so my food options at the resort were very limited to what I could get as room service because my friends had gone out into the parks and I was just calling. I couldn't get up, I couldn't walk, so I did my best, and I had a little robot come deliver my stuff, so it was very fun. Anyway. But then we can see for the rest of the month, I had another spike in a high strain day. Typically, my higher strain days also include days when I'm showering. This is going to be TMI, but there was a period of time where I could only shower once a week because the strain of the shower it took me out. It was so bad and so uncomfortable. And it was also the first time I could wear a Whoop in the shower or any sort of heart rate monitoring device in the shower. So my first couple showers, I think I have the screenshots on my old phone, which I'm probably not going to be able to get for this video, but I would record my shower time as a workout so that I could get a more detailed analysis of what my heart was actually doing while I was raising my arms over my head, while I was in hot water, all of that stuff. So that is September. We go into October, and this is when I started having a lot of events and working so hard on Etsy projects at home. So I did have a good streak of green recovery score and then couldn't really get it back for the rest of the month. I think this first red, let me see. So the first red was an event. And that events always take a lot out of me because I'm there for about 7 hours. I'm sitting up the whole time. I can't lay down. I will always have compression socks on, but even then my feet are going to be either down on the ground or at a very low horizontal. They're not going to be as high or as close to my heart as I would like them to be. And I'm talking to people and animated and moving and packing what they're buying, and it's just a lot of effort. And so for me, if I have an event, like again, you can see my next 2 red recovery scores, another event, or prepping for the event that I had that weekend on the 29th. So typically if I have an event, the event will be red, or the few days before the event will be red, because I will start working at like 11 in the afternoon and not stop working until 10:30 at night. And so that also causes me to be in the red. Even if I'm taking some breaks and laying down in between, it's just a lot of pressure on my nervous system, and I'm already dysregulated naturally now. So yeah, October was a month. We go into November. Again, my strain in November was wild because I had more events, I was making more items, but I had events farther apart. So I was able to rest when I needed to, which is not a luxury I had in October because I had back-to-back things scheduled. But I had a harder time staying in the green for more than 3 days. And then I had another event coming up. Where was it? It was the 5th and the 6th of November. But because actually at that event, we didn't have a big turnout. So I didn't really have to do much, and I was able to just sit there and chill. So that event went okay for me. It wasn't terrible, but I had some really high strain days. I think this day, the 16th, is my highest strain ever to date. I was almost, what was I at? 16 or 17. That's wild. People who do marathons are hitting 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 for their strain. And all I did that day was bookmarks. I made bookmarks. The way that I do that is I cut up books and then glue them together, cut, laminate, cut. It's a lot of work for a person like me to do. I think I also did laundry that day. I showered that day. And my strain was the same level as someone who was doing a marathon, but all my body was doing was activities that to someone else would be like no big deal. But you can also see that my recovery that day was in the yellow. So that could be why my body got so strained so quickly, because I wasn't as recovered. So I think that's what's so cool about the Whoop, is that I can have the same strain as someone running a 5K or a marathon, and all I'm doing is sitting in my house, working on my Etsy shop, and taking a shower. But because my body has dysautonomia, those activities have the same impact on me as someone who's really physically fit and is doing really, really incredibly impressive hard things that I used to be able to do. And I'm hoping one day I will be able to go back to that. Moving on into December. December wasn't terrible for me. I think I still had 3 events in December, and only one of them put me in the red. The other ones I was really well recovered. My first event was December 3rd, which is that strain spike. That was a big event that I had a lot of stuff prepared, but I was really well recovered, and I continued to stay really well recovered. I also have a recovery snack that I take to events to try and help me stay in the green. It's peanut butter and chocolate. So Reese's are actually the exact thing that I need to stay recovered. I actually did a little test with my Whoop when I first got it and was having a really hard time and could not get in the green. I decided to take a Reese's right before I went to sleep, as if I was taking like a vitamin, and I woke up in the green the next day, and I did it again, and I woke up in the green the next day, and I did it again, and it was the only thing I had changed, was I started taking a Reese's before bed. And that's how we sort of decided, okay, at these events, when I know that I'm depleting myself, even though I'm having 2 to 3 Pedialyte packets at the event, I'm gonna have to bring Reese's as my emergency backup snack, because I can't eat them every day, because then I would just gain 1,000,000 pounds, and that would make my recovery and my ability to function even worse. But yeah, that's why sometimes at the events I am in the green, because I have all the snacks that I need, and I was so recovered going into it. Like, before this event happened, I wasn't doing a lot of prep. Everything was ready weeks in advance, so that also helped. Then I had another event the very next weekend, and that did put me in the red. And that's because I was straining the day before, and then straining the day of, and straining the day after. But I was able to sleep in a lot that day, so that's why I went back up into the green. And then we just sort of went all over the board. I had another event on Saturday, the 17th, which is another little spike. And then the rest of that month, I was very busy packing orders. I had so many orders to do in December. I was also doing, I think, 6 book reviews that month. So I never really stayed in the green for a very long time because I was physically taxed and mentally taxed the entire time. Next, we get into January. So just last month, this is my most recent score, and it's looking a lot better to me. I don't know if that's just me being crazy. It's just a bunch of dots on a page. I get that. But if you look at where my strain spikes are, they correspond so much better with when my recovery is in a green. Whereas before, my strain would be here and my recovery would be here. Now they're matching, and now I'm sort of getting in the rhythm of when my body is feeling a certain way. Let's push a little harder that day. That's going to change very soon, in this month especially. I think February and March are going to be trash for me. I can already see it coming because I have a lot of events and I'm going to have to prep, and even on days I don't feel good, I'm going to have to push through and work through it, which will mean I'll have more yellow recovery days. But it was nice to be able to take more of a break in January, and I also started implementing in this month a very sort of rigid schedule for myself where every day of the week I had a different task to focus on. So whereas before I would hyperfixate on something and totally lose myself in that task for like 7 days in a row, now I'm only allowing myself 1 day a week to work on specific tasks. And I think it's been helping me manage my energy so much better. It's been wildly successful in my opinion. And I think that's going to be where I'm ending the sort of show and tell portion of this video. Now I want to talk a little bit about what it's like actually wearing the Whoop, charging the Whoop, using the Whoop, all of the things on a day-to-day basis that I personally noticed. So when I first got the Whoop, I really like wearing watches or items on my left arm, and I really prefer to wear the little like bumpy part on the bottom of my wrist. It just functions a lot better. But if I'm working or typing or writing, then I do have to move it. I'm a little sweaty, so I was having a hard time moving. Pardon me. I do have to move it to the top of my wrist. So the Whoop, if you want to take it off, pops up like that. Very simple to get on and off. It does have a little bit of like a sticky texture, not like sticky gross, but sort of like a rubber stick to it so that it doesn't slide around whatsoever on your wrist. And it's very soft, and I don't even notice I'm wearing it most of the time. It doesn't bother me at all. When I first got the Whoop, I was charging it while wearing it, which is really a great option because it comes with a little battery pack. You charge the battery pack with the USB first, and then you attach the battery pack right onto your Whoop. So if you need to go somewhere, you can just put it on top, go do whatever you want. It was fine. Well, until it wasn't. I'm a very delicate flower, apparently, because I noticed after a time that when I would take my Whoop off in the shower to sort of clean it and my wrist, I had blisters. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized when I took my battery pack off one day that the Whoop was warm. It was not hot, it did not hurt, but because of just who I am as a person and how sensitive my skin is, I was developing blisters from charging the Whoop on my arm. So now I just take it off. It's the only time I take it off. I charge it, and then I put it back on after. I'll like wave it around real quick, make sure it's cool, put it back on. I've had no problems since then. I was a little bit worried when I couldn't figure out what was going on and I was going to email the company. I started wearing it. I had to wear it on my right arm for about 2 months before this arm healed, and then I could move it back. And once I figured out what was happening, because it started to happen on my right arm too, and I was like, let me try and charge it not wearing it, instantly solved my problem. So if you have really sensitive skin, if you're really sensitive to temperature, that is my advice to you. Even though you can wear your Whoop to charge it, maybe don't. That's my advice. I was a little bit worried about the smell. I had seen some comments on some CrossFitters videos being like, how do you get rid of the smell? And they would always just reply back, wash it. And I was like, what do you mean it smells? But mine has never had an issue. So maybe they really just do need to wash it after every workout. If they're a very sweaty person, I just wash mine with me in the shower and it's totally fine. I don't use a different soap. I just use my body wash. I've had no issues, no smell. It always smells like my skin. So I don't know. I think that's everything for this video. I've really blabbered on and on and on and on. My takeaway is that the Whoop is only as useful as the effort you put into it. And I have not put enough effort into it for the reasons that I got it in the first place. It does, on its own, just naturally give me so much valuable information that I don't feel like I have to call my doctors all the time anymore and be like, I have a new symptom, I have a new thing. Instead, I can look at my Whoop and be like, oh, well, yesterday my strain was 1,000, and so yeah, it makes sense that today I feel like I'm dying. I can also even track sometimes when I'm going into a flare and react accordingly, or in theory, try to react accordingly, because like I said, if life or an event is coming up and I have to push through, I know it's coming, I know it's not going to be fun, but I'll try and recover as much as I can after. I think moving forward, I'm going to start again documenting in my Whoop tracker what I did the day before, my eating habits, my sleeping habits, drinking, medicine. I need to start stretching more. Oh my gosh, I need to start working out again. And it's going to be incorporated into my weekly list as things that I'm going to do a few days a week just to get myself back on track. And I'm very excited to see how that data will change my Whoop experience in the next 6 months. And hopefully, I won't make any promises, but hopefully I could come back and do another video, a year update, and the difference between tracking every day and not tracking every day, because there's an entire section in your monthly assessment where it compares what you tracked and compares it to your recovery and will tell you this helped you or this did not help you. And that's information I definitely need to sort of understand more of the ways I can help my body and work with my body. If you're interested in getting a Whoop, I do have a link below that I believe will get your first month of Whoop free. It is a monthly subscription service. I pay $30 a month. You can also pay per year, or I think per 3 years, and your first band is totally free. Comes with the band and the battery pack and charger and everything you need to set it up. The app is available for your phone or device, and it's also available, I can pull it up on my laptop. I will say, if you're looking for past monthly assessments, you have to go on your device. The app on the computer only has the current or previous month's assessment. So on my computer, I can see January. On my phone, I can see since the beginning of time with my Whoop. So that's just another little tip. This has been such a long video. I don't know who's watching it, but hello. Thank you so much. If you have any questions about anything I talked about today, I know this isn't probably what you were looking for when I said I'd come back and do a Whoop update, but I'm keeping it real. This is what happened, this is how I'm wearing it and how I'm using it. And I still would not stop my subscription. I still think it's really valuable and important to me personally. I'm not an athlete right now. I hope to get back to that. I was a dancer my entire life, and I started doing CrossFit in 2014. Literally the day before I ended up in the hospital, I was at a CrossFit workout, and that was the most shocking thing. I kept saying it to my nurses. I was like, I was working out 12 hours ago. I was running. I was deadlifting. I was like clean and jerking in an AMRAP 12 hours ago. And now I can't walk. So that was my experience. And that's how I even knew about Whoop to begin with, because I was in the CrossFit space. So meshed in with my being and my person and my lifestyle. Anyway, that's where we're at now. I enjoy my Whoop. I would like to get a new strap one of these days, because you can see the wear and tear. It's held up great. I don't need a new strap, which is why I haven't bought one, but I would like one day. So thanks so much for watching this video. Again, leave your questions, comments down below. I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!